Ariana Grande is one of the most recognizable voices of her generation, a superstar who rose from Nickelodeon sitcoms to global pop domination, filling arenas and topping charts with ease. To the world, she has always looked unstoppable, confident, glamorous, a woman who turned every heartbreak into a hit song and every challenge into another milestone. But fame has two faces. One is the glittering image fans see, the perfect photos, the flawless performances, the witty late-night interviews. The other is what happens when the cameras shut off, when the pressure doesn't fade, and when the very thing that made you a star begins to quietly break you. For Ariana, the weight of fame hasn't just been exhausting, it has at times been unbearable. Behind the spotlight, Ariana has endured unimaginable pressure, constant media scrutiny, the trauma of public tragedy, and the suffocating expectation to be flawless at every moment. These pressures led to private meltdowns, unseen moments where the cost of global superstardom finally caught up to her. In this video, we'll uncover the unseen side of Ariana Grande's journey, the breakdowns no one saw, the battles she kept hidden, and the way she fought to rebuild herself after fame nearly destroyed her. From bright star to burden, the weight of early fame. When people think of Ariana Grande, they see a superstar who seems to have it all: fame, fortune, and a voice that can silence an entire stadium. But to understand her unseen meltdowns, you have to rewind to the very beginning, to a young girl from Boca Raton, Florida, who dreamed of Broadway and found herself catapulted into a world far larger, far harsher, and far more demanding than she could have ever imagined. Ariana's first taste of fame came through theater and television. She appeared on Broadway as a child, but her big break arrived with Nickelodeon's Victorious in 2010. To fans, she was the bubbly, wide-eyed Cat Valentine with her red-dyed hair and quirky personality. For Ariana, however, this role was more than just a character. It was the start of a machine that would begin shaping her image before she had even fully discovered who she was. Teen stardom is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it gives young actors opportunities most people only dream of. On the other, it robs them of privacy, normalcy, and the freedom to make mistakes quietly. Ariana was suddenly on magazine covers, attending fan events, and answering to producers who wanted her to be marketable above all else. Behind the smile of a Nickelodeon star was a teenager trying to balance school, work, and the weight of being a role model for kids her own age. Early cracks began here. The pressure to be perfect, the exhaustion of filming long hours, and the constant scrutiny of her appearance. The world wasn't just watching Ariana perform, it was watching her grow up, ready to criticize every step she took. By 2013, Ariana had successfully transitioned from television to music. Her debut album, Yours Truly, shocked the industry. Critics compared her powerhouse vocals to Mariah Carey, and suddenly Ariana wasn't just a former child star, she was the future of pop. The success was thrilling, but it also meant the pressure multiplied overnight. She wasn't just an actress anymore, she was now expected to be a global pop icon. With success came the grueling reality of music fame, endless interviews, world tours, studio sessions that stretched into the morning, and the demand to constantly outdo herself. For Ariana, who was barely in her 20s, the whirlwind was exhilarating, but also destabilizing. Fame doesn't pause. There are no breaks. Every new achievement only raises the expectations higher. And as Ariana's career skyrocketed, the cracks in her personal foundation began to widen. One of the earliest signs of strain came in the way the media treated her. The narrative shifted from celebrating her talent to scrutinizing her behavior. Tabloids began calling her a diva. Rumors spread about her being difficult on set, about her personal life, about every relationship she entered. Whether these stories were true or exaggerated didn't matter. They became part of her image, shaping public perception in ways Ariana couldn't control. Imagine being in your early 20s, still learning who you are, while millions of strangers argue online about your character. For Ariana, this wasn't just frustrating, it was crushing. But the pressures weren't only external. Inside, Ariana carried her own insecurities. She has admitted in interviews that she struggled with anxiety from a young age, and fame magnified it. Performing in front of thousands sounds glamorous, but the reality is terrifying for someone battling stage fright and panic. Ariana often pushed through, delivering flawless performances, but the cost was internal. After every show, after every tour, she returned to hotel rooms exhausted, her mind still racing, her body still tense. The applause faded, but the anxiety lingered. Another factor was the constant demand to reinvent herself. Pop stars are not allowed to stay the same. With each album, each music video, Ariana was pressured to evolve, to look different, sound different, and appeal to both old fans and new ones. For a young woman still developing her own identity, this constant reinvention was overwhelming. Who was she really? The wide-eyed Cat Valentine, the diva pop star, the sultry performer, or the activist speaking out about issues close to her heart? The truth is, she was all of them, and none of them. The world expected Ariana to fit neatly into a box, but Ariana herself was still figuring out which box, if any, she belonged in. The first real signs of emotional breaking came during her early tours. While fans saw a confident performer dancing under the lights, Ariana often spoke privately about the toll it took on her. Traveling from city to city, living out of suitcases, and constantly being surrounded by strangers left her isolated. Sleep was rare, genuine friendships rarer, and though millions adored her, Ariana felt profoundly lonely. This is one of the paradoxes of fame. You are never alone, yet you are constantly lonely. For Ariana, that loneliness became a shadow she carried everywhere. The industry didn't slow down for her. After one successful album came another. After one tour came another. Each milestone was followed immediately by the next challenge. The cracks widened further as Ariana began to experience personal tragedies. Though those moments became more public later in her career, the early years were already laying the groundwork for an unseen meltdown. The relentless grind, the media attacks, the internal battles with anxiety, they were all adding up silently behind the perfect image of a rising superstar. By the time Ariana became a household name, adored by millions and praised as one of the greatest voices of her generation, she was already beginning to carry the hidden weight of burnout. To the fans, she was untouchable. To Ariana herself, she was fragile, stretched thin, and haunted by the fear that one wrong step would cause everything to collapse. Her unseen meltdown didn't happen overnight. It was the slow result of years of pressure, beginning with the bright lights of Nickelodeon and magnified by the dizzying heights of global pop fame. And though Ariana kept smiling, kept singing, and kept giving the world her best, the cracks in her armor were there for anyone who cared to look closely. This was only the beginning of Ariana Grande's unseen breakdown, the first chapter in a story that reveals the true cost of living under the glare of fame, tragedy, trauma, and the breaking point. By the time Ariana Grande was at the height of her fame, she was already carrying the invisible scars of anxiety, burnout, and relentless pressure. But nothing could have prepared her for the tragedies that would mark the most painful chapters of her life. Moments that tested not only her resilience as an artist, but her very ability to keep moving forward. The Manchester bombing. On May 22, 2017, Ariana's Dangerous Woman Tour reached Manchester, England. It was supposed to be another triumphant night with thousands of fans, many of them young children and teenagers, singing along to every word. Instead, it became one of the darkest nights in modern concert history. A suicide bomber detonated an explosive device just outside the arena, killing 22 people and injuring hundreds more. The victims weren't just faceless numbers, they were Ariana's fans, her community, the very people who came to celebrate her music. In an instant, her tour became linked with tragedy. For Ariana, the aftermath was devastating. She left Manchester in shock, unable to process what had happened. Though she was not physically harmed, the emotional impact was overwhelming. She is described feeling guilty, as though the attack was somehow her fault, simply because it happened at her show. Survivor's guilt is a heavy burden, and Ariana carried it silently for months. The smiling performer who once found joy in the stage now found herself haunted by the fear that concerts could never be safe again. But Ariana refused to let tragedy be the final word. Just weeks later, she organized the One Love Manchester benefit concert, bringing together artists from around the world and raising millions for the victims and their families. It was one of the most powerful displays of resilience the music industry had ever seen. Yet even in that moment of strength, Ariana was still broken inside. She gave everything she had to comfort others, but privately, she was battling trauma, panic attacks, and the crushing weight of grief, love, and loss. As if the Manchester tragedy wasn't enough, Ariana's personal life soon brought another wave of heartbreak. She had been in a long-term relationship with rapper Mac Miller, someone she described not only as a partner but as a best friend and soulmate. Even after they separated in 2018, they remained close, sharing a bond that transcended romance. When Mac Miller died of an accidental overdose later that year, Ariana was shattered. The grief was indescribable, compounded by public judgment. Some fans cruelly blamed her, suggesting that her absence contributed to his struggles. Though those accusations were unfair, they tore at Ariana deeply. She was grieving the loss of someone she loved, while simultaneously defending herself from people who couldn't understand the complexity of their relationship. The loss of Mac was another breaking point. Ariana has said she couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, and often couldn't breathe under the weight of that grief. She carried the guilt of wondering whether she could have done more, whether she had failed someone she still loved. Once again, the world saw her smile on red carpets, but behind closed doors, she was crumbling. The pressure of public relationships. At the same time, Ariana's personal relationships were under a microscope. Her engagement to comedian Pete Davidson became a whirlwind media circus, with every move scrutinized and every breakup rumor making headlines. What should have been a private exploration of love became a global spectacle. When the engagement ended, Ariana once again faced ridicule, as though her heartbreak was entertainment for the masses. The public's fascination with her personal life left her feeling stripped of privacy. Every relationship became content. Every heartbreak became a headline. And through it all, Ariana was expected to keep creating, keep performing, keep being the flawless pop star everyone wanted her to be. Panic and breakdown, all of this. The Manchester bombing, Mac Miller's death, public scrutiny of her relationships, culminated in a private meltdown Ariana has only spoken about in fragments. By 2018 and 2019, she was openly struggling with anxiety and PTSD. On stage, she delivered powerful performances, but offstage, she sometimes broke down in tears. During her Sweetener World Tour, she admitted to fans that some nights were unbearably difficult. In one moment, she told the audience she almost canceled shows because the pain felt too heavy. Fans cheered her for her honesty, but it revealed the truth. Ariana wasn't just tired, she was deeply wounded. The pressure to keep going, even when she wanted to stop, pushed her to her limits. The signs of her unseen meltdown were clear. Frequent tears, canceled interviews, and social media posts that hinted at exhaustion and despair. She described herself as feeling broken more than once. These weren't just moments of sadness, they were signals of someone trying desperately to hold herself together while the world demanded more. Music as survival for Ariana, music became both a lifeline and a burden. Albums like Sweetener and Thank You next captured her pain, her resilience, and her determination to turn heartbreak into art. Songs like No Tears Left to Cry and Ghostin' revealed her inner battles in ways that no interview could. Fans connected deeply to those lyrics, sensing the honesty and vulnerability behind them. But creating music while grieving was not always healing. Sometimes it forced Ariana to relive her trauma, singing about losses that were still raw. The very thing that saved her was also the thing that kept her trapped in her pain. The breaking point. By the time Ariana reached her late 20s, the cracks that had begun in her teenage years had widened into a full fracture. The trauma of Manchester, the loss of Mac Miller, and the suffocating pressure of public relationships all collided into a storm she could barely withstand. She spoke openly about panic attacks, PTSD, and therapy, admitting that fame was both a blessing and a curse. Her unseen meltdown was not a single moment, but a collection of them. Crying in hotel rooms after shows, breaking down backstage, feeling numb during rehearsals, and carrying guilt that was never hers to carry. Fans saw the strong Ariana who kept performing, but the truth is, those performances often came at the cost of her own mental well-being. Ariana Grande's unseen breakdown was forged in tragedy and trauma. It wasn't about weakness. It was about a human being pushed beyond the limits of what anyone should have to endure, and still finding the strength to stand on stage and sing anyway. Healing, reinvention, and Ariana's future beyond the spotlight. By the time Ariana Grande entered her 30s, she was no longer just a global superstar. She was a survivor. After years of public triumphs shadowed by private meltdowns, Ariana began shifting her life in ways that showed she wasn't willing to be consumed by fame. In 2025, her story isn't just about the cost of celebrity. It's about how someone rebuilds after nearly breaking under the weight of it. Choosing healing over perfection, one of the most significant shifts in Ariana's life came when she started openly prioritizing her mental health. For years, she pushed through pain for the sake of her fans, believing that strength meant never stopping. But eventually, she learned that real strength sometimes means stepping back. Therapy became a lifeline. She spoke about it openly, acknowledging that counseling helped her navigate grief, anxiety, and PTSD. By sharing this, Ariana turned her private struggles into a public message. It's okay to ask for help. Unlike in her early 20s, when she hid her breakdowns behind flawless performances, Ariana in 2025 embraces vulnerability. She acknowledges when she's struggling. She gives herself permission to cancel appearances if her health demands it. These choices, once unthinkable in the relentless world of pop stardom, have become symbols of her growth. Fans no longer see her as the untouchable diva. They see her as a human being who has chosen healing over perfection. Reinvention through art. Ariana's music has always reflected her inner world. In earlier albums, she often blended upbeat pop with messages of empowerment, even when she was hurting inside. But as she grew older, her art became more transparent. Albums like Sweetener, Thank You, Next, and Positions hinted at a woman transforming her pain into expression. By 2025, Ariana has used music less as an obligation to the industry and more as a tool for reinvention. Instead of rushing to release an album every year, she now takes her time, writing when she feels inspired, experimenting with genres, and refusing to be confined to what the charts demand. Her art has shifted from proving herself to expressing herself. This reinvention has not only given her freedom, but has also redefined her legacy. Ariana is no longer simply a pop princess. She is an artist, unafraid to let her music mirror the messy truth of her life. Expanding beyond music. Part of Ariana's healing has also come from expanding her world beyond music. Fame nearly broke her when her entire identity revolved around being a singer. So, in her 30s, she began diversifying her passions. Her beauty brand, REM Beauty, became not just a business venture, but a way for her to channel creativity outside of the stage. Acting has resurfaced as another outlet, with projects in television and film giving her new roles to explore. By branching out, Ariana gave herself room to breathe. Instead of being defined solely by the pressure of topping charts, she now finds fulfillment in different arenas. This balance is critical. It means that even if she steps back from music temporarily, she still has other ways to create, to contribute, and to feel valued. Building a private life for Ariana, one of the most radical acts of healing, has been reclaiming her privacy. After years of having every romance dissected and every mistake amplified, she has chosen to guard her personal life more fiercely. In 2025, her relationships are far less public. She no longer feeds the tabloids or lets outsiders dictate the narrative of her love life. Marriage and divorce, whispers of new romances, all of these once dominated headlines about Ariana. But now, she understands the importance of setting boundaries. Fame doesn't mean forfeiting privacy, and Ariana has proven that she can live a life outside the constant glare of cameras. For a woman once haunted by the invasiveness of celebrity culture, this shift represents peace, connection with fans. Despite stepping back from some aspects of fame, Ariana has not abandoned her fans. If anything, her connection with them has deepened. By sharing her struggles with anxiety, therapy, and grief, she has become a source of comfort for millions who face similar battles. Her fan base doesn't just love her music, they see her as a role model for resilience. On social media, she interacts less frequently than before, but when she does, her messages carry more weight. They are authentic, heartfelt, and often filled with gratitude. Instead of being constantly available, Ariana now chooses quality over quantity in her interactions. This approach protects her well-being while still honoring the community that has supported her through every chapter. A future defined by balance. Looking ahead, Ariana Grande's future seems less about chasing fame and more about balance. She has learned that constant exposure doesn't equal happiness. Instead, she seeks stability, authenticity, and creative fulfillment on her own terms. Whether through music, acting, business, or simply living quietly, Ariana is determined to shape a life that nurtures her soul rather than drains it. She has also hinted at wanting a family one day, a dream that could redefine her priorities even further. For Ariana, who spent her youth giving herself entirely to the public, motherhood may become a way to focus on something profoundly personal. Whether or not that chapter arrives, it symbolizes her shift from being consumed by fame to building a future grounded in love and peace. The symbol of her story. At its core, Ariana's journey is about transformation. From a teenager overwhelmed by early fame, to a woman shattered by tragedy, to an artist reinventing herself through healing. Her story reflects both the danger and resilience of living in the spotlight. Her unseen meltdown after the fame is no longer a secret, it's part of her truth. But what makes her remarkable is not the breakdown itself, it's the way she has chosen to rebuild. She has turned guilt into compassion, grief into music, and burnout into balance. Ariana's story reminds us that even the brightest stars can dim, but with time, they can shine again, not as illusions of perfection, but as reflections of authenticity. Ariana in 2025. In 2025, Ariana Grande stands as more than just a pop star. She is a woman who has faced unimaginable pressures and survived. She is an artist who no longer feels chained to industry expectations. She is a human being who has embraced therapy, privacy, and peace. Her future is not about how many records she breaks, but about how fully she lives. And that might be her greatest legacy, proving that you don't have to let fame consume you. You can survive it, heal from it, and use it as fuel to become something even greater than the world ever expected. Ariana Grande's story is not just about fame, but about survival. Behind the perfect vocals, the sold-out arenas, and the glamorous red carpets was a young woman silently battling anxiety, grief, and the crushing weight of expectations. The world saw the superstar, but very few saw the breakdowns, the tears backstage, the sleepless nights, the guilt she carried after tragedy. Her unseen meltdown after the fame was never weakness. It was the human cost of being pushed to the edge in front of millions. And yet, Ariana refused to let those cracks define her. She chose therapy, she chose reinvention, and most importantly, she chose herself. In 2025, she stands not just as a global icon, but as proof that healing is possible, even when the world refuses to let you rest. Her journey forces us to ask, how much do we really know about the people we idolize? And at what point do we, as fans, stop demanding perfection and start allowing our heroes to simply be human? What do you think? Has Ariana finally found balance beyond fame, or will the pressures of superstardom always follow her? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold stories.